Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited today at the Brady Cobin Law Group. This is our second installment for our series of live Facebook events, and we plan to represent for the remainder of the year. My name is Tina Nelson. I am the office manager here at the Brady Cobin Law Group, and today we have Attorney Gretchen Cleevely once again, one of our attorneys here at Brady Cobin Law Group, and we will be discussing long-term care today. What to expect in planning your long-term care, how can you pay for your long-term care, and different options for paying for such, and how to be successful and to apply for those benefits like Medicaid. All of this and more, as usual, we'll be discussing. We'll have a little fun in the meanwhile. So to get started, let's, Gretchen, tell us a little bit about you and how you came into this practice of law.
Good morning, everybody. I began practicing law. I represented school districts when I first started practicing, and I was a special education teacher before I went to law school. And I found when I was representing school districts, I missed the contact with families, and that's what drew me to practice special needs law. And sort of in that, I started to get some questions about Medicaid, specifically long-term care Medicaid. And what I really enjoy about this part of my practice is it's not just about getting somebody qualified for Medicaid, although that's certainly a large part of it. But I like the fact that it brings peace of mind to families, knowing that their elder loved ones are being cared for, and we're not leaving them destitute.
Yeah, absolutely. They worked hard throughout their lifetime. Okay, well, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This is a Facebook Live event for informational and educational purpose only, and it is not to be intended as legal advice. We're just here to answer questions and so forth. So let's get started. We're talking about Medicaid. We're talking about long-term care. What is that?
So there are, when you're looking at public benefits, which is the focus of our conversation today, there are two types of benefits that we're going to talk about. We're really only going to focus on long-term care Medicaid, and that is your more skilled nursing, that higher level medical skilled nursing facility, and that's the Medicaid. There's also what we typically think of as a nursing home or as assisted living, and that benefit that's available is special assistance. And we're not really going to focus on that today because the two sets of rules are very different.
Okay.
So we're talking today about that skilled nursing, that higher level of care.
Okay. So let's get into it. Who will need long-term care?
Studies are showing right now that 1 in 2 people over the age of, I believe, 70 are needing long-term care at this point. Okay. And also with Alzheimer's on the rise, more and more people are finding that they need to place a loved one in some sort of skilled nursing.
Yeah. What is the average cost of long-term care?
Here in North Carolina, it's about $7,300. It can be as much as $9, $10, $11. It's expensive. I mean, you're looking at on average $100,000 a year, which is it's a huge expense for families.
So out of my pocket. What would be my options then for long-term care? What is available to me?
So that's again, we've got those two types. We've got special assistance. Again, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that long-term care Medicaid.
And as far as
paying for it, sure. You can pay out of pocket, private pay, which again we just spoke about how expensive that is.
Right.
Most people would be drained, in my experience, after about a year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
You can. A lot of people have long-term care insurance, which is great. However, those policies are harder and harder to get these days, and that's just not, unless you got in at the beginning of that. Those are just becoming more and more difficult to get.
Okay.
And then the other option is applying for Medicaid and getting that Medicaid benefit.
Okay. So then, how do you help? Where do you fall into all of this?
So I help the families plan. So a family will come to me, and in one or two situations, we've got what we call a crisis situation where mom needs to go to the nursing home tomorrow, and we have money that we want to spend wisely and protect in order to qualify for Medicaid. The other one, which is preferable, is somebody who comes to me well in advance,
Mm-hmm.
and we can do some advanced planning, and that's always more helpful, but I can help in either situation.
Okay. So for those who may have just joined us, we're speaking with Attorney Gretchen Cleevely, one of our attorneys here at Brady Cobin Law Group. And again, this is for informational and educational purposes. It is not to take the place of legal advice. I can come to you for that. But let's keep going, if we will. So if I want to qualify for Medicaid, what am I allowed to have, to own, to keep?
Sure. That's usually the first question I get asked. In a nutshell, you get to keep your primary residence,
Okay.
which is great because most times that's your biggest asset.
Right.
You get to keep one vehicle, and then there are financial other assets. So then you can have, if you're single or an individual, you can have $2,000. If you're a married couple, you can have $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot.
No,
No,
not at all.
that's
not at
why it's important to plan.
all. Okay. So there's the look back period. I've heard about that. What is that? There's
Yes.
a look back period. What is that?
So Medicaid has a 5-year look back period.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means, on the date that you apply, Medicaid's going to look back 5 years and see if you've made any uncompensated transfers or transfers for less than fair market value.
Okay.
Did you give anything away? What they're looking for is, did I give money away to Tina to qualify for Medicaid?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there special considerations for married persons?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
what are
that's a
those?
great question. What Medicaid doesn't want, what's called the wealth spouse or the community spouse, to be destitute. And so Medicaid will let you, as the community spouse, keep between $26,000 and $130,000, and that's based on how much money. That's based on what you have when you apply.
Okay.
And also there are income help for the wealth spouse or the community spouse, and that runs between $2,100 and $3,200.
Okay. So are there income limits? I know you told me how much money I can have max. Are there limits to that? Did you refer to
For
that?
income?
Yeah.
Sure. So with income, the good thing about long-term care Medicaid or skilled nursing Medicaid is that there is an income limit, but the income only has to be less than the cost of care, which, when we're talking about cost of care in North Carolina, that roughly $7,300 mark, most people are not going to have income above that. So that's rarely a hurdle that needs to be jumped over.
Okay. So I'm no longer scared a little bit. We'll see. So what is considered income when you say there's that income limit? What is considered income?
So just what you would think it would be, Tina. So it's wages if you're still earning money.
Right.
Likely that's not happening if,
Right.
if you're needing to qualify for skilled nursing. I doubt you're out in the workplace. Second is your pension. Third is your Social Security. And the last would be any distributions from an IRA.
Okay. Okay. That could get there. All right. So let's see. What is accountable resource?
Do you mean what is in that $2,000 or $3,000 mark that
Correct.
you can keep?
Correct.
Yes. Pretty much everything. That's what I say. I start there. Now there are things that don't count, like we talked about. Remember, the house isn't in there.
Right.
One car isn't in there. Your bank accounts, your checking accounts, CDs, IRAs, pretty much anything you have.
Okay. And let's see here. One of the other questions were, like we were saying before, the assets that can be excluded. Can you list a few of those?
Sure.
A little more details.
Sure, and not to beat a dead horse, but people are always worried about losing their home, and we're going to talk about that later. But you get to keep your house, get to keep your car. Some things that Medicaid also excludes are irrevocable funeral contracts. And that's a great exclusion, and also we'll talk about later a great way to sort of put money somewhere that's a good place to put it when you're trying to spend down to get to that $2,000 or $3,000 mark.
Right. So, okay, here goes a scenario. How do I protect my assets? Let's dream here, and I have $300,000 in assets. How would I protect those?
So there are several ways, and again, planning ahead is the best way to do that. Because again, we've got to remember we've got that 5-year look back. So we're going to talk about some strategies. Some are great. The first one I'm going to talk about, and if any of you tuned into any of the YouTube videos I did, I talked about the first one, which is a Medicaid asset protection trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, let's say, Tina, you have $300,000, you come to me and you're healthy, you're great, but you think you're going to need Medicaid in the future. We would put a certain amount of money in there, and I'm going to make it up. I'm going to say you and I decide $100,000 is a good amount to put in that Medicaid asset protection trust.
Mm-hmm.
We put that in there today.
Mm-hmm.
5 years from today, you need to apply for Medicaid. Medicaid cannot count that as an asset to you. So we've protected that $100,000. And what's great about that, and it's not just about protecting it for perhaps your kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's also protecting it for you because Medicaid doesn't cover everything.
True.
So if you would need a certain test, that money would be there. And there are certain rules of that trust. It's irrevocable. Mm-hmm. And you want to be careful with that trust, who you pick as your trustee, because that person's going to control that money. So, and that's not an option for some people because they don't have anybody they can trust to be that trustee.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Right. So why or how is this helpful? This trust.
Why is what?
Why is this helpful? Move assets.
Oh, so again, it protects. So again, we had that $100,000 that we put in of your money.
Mm-hmm.
You need to qualify for Medicaid 5 years. That money's there and protected. That's how that's helpful.
Okay. So let's go to the off extreme here. You said I can't give my money away. How does gifting work then? Like if I needed to spend down and get my money down, how would that work?
Most times I don't recommend you gift. There are a couple scenarios where that's the only option, and we deal with that, right? Mm-hmm. The reason you don't want to gift, especially in that 5-year look back, and again, no one has a crystal ball, but because that gift will be penalized. And what that means is you'll incur a penalty because of that gift, and you'll have to private pay for so many months until that gift has been cured, so to speak.
Oh, okay. You spoke about annuities and so forth. What about annuities? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So an annuity is a good strategy, especially when you have a well spouse, because you can put some of that money into an annuity and create an income stream.
Okay.
For that well spouse.
Okay.
There are specific rules, so I wouldn't recommend just going anywhere to get an annuity if you're looking at Medicaid qualification, because there are very specific rules about the annuities that Medicaid needs you to have in order for that not to incur a penalty. Mm-hmm. And that's something, if you came to see me, we would talk about those specific rules. The main one being North Carolina Medicaid has to be named as the first beneficiary should you pass.
Well, that makes sense. So again, if you are just joining us, we're speaking with Gretchen Cleevely, one of our attorneys here at Brady Cobin Law Group. Note that this again is educational purposes only, informational, but not intended as legal advice. And if you'd like legal advice, you can always call and schedule a consultation with Gretchen Cleevely. So this is taking it personal. If I'm the one staying home, I'm the spouse staying at home, taking care of the spouse who may need the assistance, can I get paid for that? Or better yet, as in most cases, can I get paid for taking care of mom and dad?
Yes. So yes, you can be paid for taking care of mom and dad.
Okay.
What you don't want to do is have mom and dad just throw Tina $100 a week,
right?
Because that's going to build up, and guess what? Medicaid's going to look at that and say, oh, they're giving their daughter $100 a week,
right?
So what we do is we draft what's called a caregiver agreement. That's Medicaid compliant. Medicaid looks at that contract and says this is a valid contract, and that gives you a way to pay your child or not your spouse, but your child or children or somebody else.
Right.
Just make sure that you have a contract in place, because if not, that's $100, $200, $300 that's going to build up and incur a penalty period with Medicaid. And the other thing is, oftentimes I'll come in and I'll meet with kids and we'll talk about the caregiver agreement, and there are tax issues with that. So you're going to get taxed on the income.
Okay.
As the child that's bringing in the income.
I was going to ask that. It sounds like an employer-employee relationship.
It is at that
point.
point.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't want to deal with that, and so that's not a strategy we do. Other people do. If you have a child that's full time taking care of mom or dad or both, then it's a great idea. But it's really not useful when it's just like, oh, I go pick up groceries for mom and dad once every 2 weeks. I go there for an hour, help them clean.
Right.
It's really not useful. But the caution I would give to people is not just to pay their kids without a contract in place.
So I'm throwing you out there a little bit. Is this something you can help with for setting that up?
100%.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, what if I don't plan ahead? What if I things just happen? Mom falls down, dad, whatever. What do I do then?
So there are a lot of good strategies that we can use. I talked a minute ago about irrevocable funeral contracts. And when I first read about that strategy, when I was first starting out in law, I thought, well, how much could that be? Well, I was shocked. It can be a lot. I had no idea how much funerals cost. I guess I wasn't thinking about it, but yeah, I mean, they can be $10,000, $11,000, $12,000. So that's a great way and a good way to take care of how you want to be taken care of when you passed, but also for the kids. Then they don't have to worry about that expense.
Right.
They don't have to worry about anything. It's all taken care of, and you move on. That's a great strategy. Another strategy that I really like when these strategies work at any time, but these are ones that definitely work when you gotta move quickly, when we're in that crisis planning that I spoke about.
Okay.
Another one is home improvements. So remember, you get to keep your primary residence. Home improvements is a great way. Do you need a handicap ramp? Do you need a new roof? Do you need new windows? And that's a great way to invest, in your property and not incur any sort of eligibility ding from Medicaid.
Right. And then that other one, what about the vehicle? You had mentioned something about that.
Another great one is if you've got a vehicle that it's fine,
right?
And you get that one vehicle. Oftentimes, I'll recommend you trading in that vehicle and getting a better one. Oftentimes, also, I had a client just do this where they were having trouble getting mom in and out of the car that they currently had, and they upgraded to a handicapped accessible van, which they're extremely expensive. But what a great investment! They were able to go get mom out of the home easily, in and out, take her to dinner in that car. And that's that quality of life. That's what I was talking about. Again, we can do things instead of you just spending money or waiting it out. And that improved that mom's quality of life greatly. And the kids. And the kids.
That makes sense. So what about my house? We talked about the money that we may have. We talked about how we can spend down. But what about my house? Can they just take my house? I've heard of that question. Something about to do with the deeds or something.
Yes.
Like that. Talk to me about that.
Again, this is something that is very important to a lot of people because the house is, if not the biggest asset, one of the biggest assets most people have. Again, Medicaid doesn't count it towards eligibility, but we in North Carolina, we have expanded estate recovery for Medicaid. And what that means is anything that's paid out to you by Medicaid after your death, Medicaid can sort of claw it back. But only what they paid out. They can't go for more than that.
Right.
And one of the ways that they can do that is to go after the house, go after that amount from the house. There are ways that we can avoid that. Two ways, and I'll describe them quickly. One is we have the kids purchase 1% interest in a home. And then the home is owned joint with rights of survivorship. And so let's say, Tina, you are getting Medicaid, we did this type of deed, you die, that house immediately passes to your children, Medicaid can't touch it. The other one is called a ladybird deed, and that's sort of a more advanced life estate in the property. So Tina, you would say, I'm retaining a life estate. While I'm alive, I can mortgage, sell, rent, do whatever I want with the property, but immediately when you die, let's say I'm your kid and you give it to me, I'm the remainderman, I get the house immediately. So that sort of protects the house from Medicaid being able to claw back what they paid out during your lifetime.
That's a question we get all the time in our calls that come in, and I'm so glad you explained that. I'm going to be sending people to this video as well because they're asking that all the time. So again, if you've just joined us, we're talking with Gretchen Cleevely, attorney here at Brady Cobin Law Group, and this Facebook Live event is for informational and educational purposes only, and is definitely not intended as legal advice. We're about to wrap up a little bit, but I'd like to put you in the hot seat just for a second. I want to throw you a curveball, if I will. How much would a Medicaid, all this great stuff you just talked about today, how much would it cost? That's the bottom line. Everybody wants to know, how much will it cost?
And Tina loves this. I'm going to toss that back to her because she's got the best answer for this question.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm in the hot seat for a second. So to answer that question, I say this all day, every day on the phone, and we can't give a cost. We don't know what it's going to cost. And simply put, is because we don't know what's involved. We don't know what the parents or the person may have accumulated in their lifetime. And the best way to give that answer is, first and foremost, schedule a consultation. And by scheduling that consultation, we'll give you a questionnaire to fill out, and that questionnaire brings light to everything to the attorney like yourself as to what's involved. And now they can better speak with the potential client with a frame of reference. But without that information, we can throw a number out there and see what sticks, and that's not fair to either one of you, the attorney or the potential client. So questionnaire. You want to know how much it costs? Get that questionnaire in, speak with the attorney, and they'll be more than happy to advise you what the cost would be. That sounds about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Back at you. So when do you begin this conversation of Medicaid long-term care planning? When do you begin it?
I think that differs for different families. I think, when we're in that crisis mode, that conversation sort of gets forced upon you, right?
That's true, right.
If not, I think thinking about it I think usually around retirement is a good time to think about it.
True.
Because that's when you're really planning for what am I going to do for the next, 20, 30 years.
Right. That is a good time. Also, we found this time of year when families get together.
Yeah.
This time of Thanksgiving and so forth, that just bring it up casually. Just to get the conversation going. And we'll have more on that in some of our other Facebook events. What do I need in order to get started with this process?
Well,
what would help you?
So, and again, Tina mentioned the questionnaire, and it is a detailed questionnaire, but it's really very helpful because if I can see what the resources are, and the income, and certainly if any gifts are made that we need to sort of figure out, that's the information that's really helpful to me, because then I can look and suggest some strategies, and we can start to devise that plan, and what we're going to do.
Like as far as the assets and statements and things like that.
So I think what you're getting at, the Medicaid application, what Medicaid asks for is 5 years, because remember there's that 5-year look back period.
Right.
So it's going to look back 5 years, and so you'll need 5 years of monthly bank statements. And that's something, if you're thinking about applying for Medicaid,
right.
Just be prepared that you're going to need to get that information, and that can take some time. Some banks are friendlier than others on that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know. So we kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it specifically. How can my family help? I'm the one that needs this care. What can my family do to help me?
Come see me, first and foremost.
Right.
But also, I think making sure that they know what your wishes are.
Okay.
In terms of what kind of care do you want, and I think also getting a really good power of attorney if there's still capacity with mom or dad or whoever the other person is, having a really really good power of attorney is extremely important, along with the healthcare power of attorney and all the other estate planning documents, right? Because this doesn't sort of sit alone. It's a part of a larger plan.
Right. It's funny you say that, because we get those crises as well. Capacity has diminished, and now it's urgent, where we have to jump over hurdles to get that power of attorney, because now the capacity has diminished. So again, getting ahead of the game, speaking with the family, and like I said, getting the estate plan documents going along with planning for long-term care.
Right, because really the last place you want to be is in a court proceeding for a guardianship, and so getting that power of attorney and that healthcare power of attorney saves you time and money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very nice to bring up. Well, once again, our time has flown. We are wrapping it up, if you will. It's been fun. I always enjoy speaking with Miss Gretchen Cleevely. And we're getting pretty good at this. I mean, the second one, we're getting pretty good at this. I'm enjoying it. If you'd like to make an appointment to speak with Gretchen Cleevely or any of our attorneys, please give us a call at 919-782-3500. And you can also visit our website at www.nc-estateplanning.com. There's a wealth of information on there. I go there as my resources sometimes, and I also send potential clients there as well. Also, for your convenience, we have offices in Raleigh, Wake Forest, and our Cary office has opened, so we have that to our advantage as well. And our consults are conducted by in person, by video, and by phone. And our staff is vaccinated for everyone's convenience and protection. And we welcome everyone to give us a call if you have any questions. Please join us next month as we interview another one of our Brady Cobin Law Group staff. I believe we're going to get Andrew Cobin in the hot seat. I believe. If not in the hot seat, we're going to have him interview. So we'll stay tuned for that one. And as usual, subscribe to our YouTube videos as well. That's all we have for today. And thank you for coming again, Ms. Gretchen.
Thanks
and,
for joining us.
We'll see you guys soon. Bye.